Hello and welcome. My name's Greg, the sales manager here at Pattern. Excited to spend some time with you today as you make this transition from match day into training. We're going to discuss some key topics around disability insurance and overall financial wellness and things to consider as you make this transition into your training program. So congratulations. And on behalf of everyone here at Pattern, we want to wish you the best of luck as you move into this next phase of your career. Before we get started, Pattern, we have the unique opportunity to serve physicians. So for the past 12 years, we've sold disability and life insurance to, over 20,000 doctors. So we have a unique expertise in working with every specialty, and we've seen it all. So leveraging that experience to help educate and really advocate for the physicians that we work with. So to get started here, I want to really talk about future insurability. This relates to disability insurance, but it really fits under this financial wellness component that we discuss. So the foundation of any financial plan is based on your ability to earn an income, right? What you're going to be doing in training is becoming a doctor, right? You're training to be a specialist. So we want to be able to protect that ability to be a specialist, to be a physician. And so through that, if we can't work due to an injury or illness, what happens? We can't invest in real estate. We can't invest in our 401k. We can't start a podcast. We can't do all those other things that want to make us money. And so the foundation of what we're going to talk about today is really protecting that income. And so framing this discussion around not becoming disabled while in training, but locking in our future insurability. Okay. When we lock in these rates early, we're able to lock in our health, our age, and training discounts, which we'll talk about here shortly. So again, it's not about becoming disabled while we're in residency. Now, certainly that can happen, but more importantly, how do we lock in that ability to be insured? So, I have a physician friend of mine. She gave me this quote, if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll be forced to make time for an illness. And I think that really pertains to what residents go through on a daily basis. You guys are going to be training to become a surgeon or an EM doc or an anesthesiologist or whatever specialty you choose. And that's a grind. We're working long days. We're helping people. We're learning the tricks of the trade. We're taking all that in. But if we don't make time for these other components, we can have certain illnesses that are going to impact us now and in the future. So how are we taking care of our mental health? How are we taking care of our physical health? The social relationships, are we holding on to those even though we're inundated with training? And then today, obviously, we're going to talk about the financial health. What are we doing today before we start training or in year 1 or 2 that we can prepare ourselves in a better situation financially that's going to set us up for better success? So again, if we don't make time for that wellness, we're going to be forced to make time for those illnesses in the future. I want to level set here and just talk about insurance. This might be the first time that you're going to have to buy insurance, right? So what is it? It's basically a contract in which an insurer indemnifies another against losses from specific perils or contingencies. So we're paying a premium every month, and in return, we're passing off risk to the insurance company, right? And so one key term there I want to talk about is indemnity. And indemnity means to be made whole. So if I wreck my car or my house gets hail damage, if I can't work and I'm covered against those specific perils through an insurance contract, I'm going to be made whole, okay? So we insure our cars, we insure our houses, we have renter's insurance. Heck, we even insure, our cell phones, right? And some of those are mandatory. I have to have auto insurance. I have to have mortgage insurance. Disability insurance, which, as you can see here, is protecting our income and our future income, isn't mandated, right? So there's certain obstacles that come along with that. So educating yourself on why it's important, why you need it, how to understand it, where you can find it, is going to be very crucial as you enter this next phase of your career. So with that, what is disability insurance? Disability insurance is a type of insurance that provides income in the case you're unable to work due to injury or illness. Okay? So essentially, it's income replacement. If I can't work because of said peril or disability or sickness, and I can't be an ER doc or a family med physician, that income replacement is going to be covered, right? I'm protecting that income that I've now lost, okay? Especially for physicians, you're training right now. You're spending 10, 12 years on learning and training to become a physician. So how do we protect that ability to earn that income? Your goal is to go trade your time for money for the next 30 some years. So how do we protect that ability if we can't work, okay? Now, I want to really quickly talk about some common disabilities before we go deeper into disability insurance. Because more times than not, when I'm out chatting with residents or talking to attending physicians, everybody thinks that it's getting hit by a car or something just catastrophic happening. And yes, that certainly does and can happen. But a lot of times it's these things we see here, these factors, these are the common disabilities. So musculoskeletal disorders, back pain, neck pain, right? Moving around an ER room, leaning over to do procedures. Those things are going to happen. Mental health disorders, cardiovascular conditions. These are all very, very typical and things that we see as common disabilities. Okay. So again, I just want to frame this as it's not just getting hit by a car or getting hurt skiing, right? And I can't perform surgeries anymore because I broke my wrist. There's other things that come into play here. Okay. So most importantly, as a physician, this is by all means the one thing that I want you guys to remember. So, physicians must have this true own occupation insurance. Okay, so this is a definition that you guys really need to pay attention to. You'll see here that there's 5 companies, 5 insurance carriers that offer this. We work with all 5, and I'll explain what that means here shortly. But true own occupation is insurance that pays your full benefit if you can't perform your specific duties of your specialty, even if you're employed elsewhere. Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's say that I am skiing and I fall and I hurt my wrist, okay, and I have to have surgery, and now I have kind of a slight tremor or something where I can't perform surgeries anymore. Okay, well now my specialty, I can't do that. I can't perform those surgeries. But let's say that I can go start a podcast or work in urgent care or do something else and earn an income. I'm going to still receive my full benefit because I can't perform my specialty, but I can still earn income over here. Okay, so that's very, very important. So if I can't be a surgeon or an anesthesiologist because of a disability, but I can earn income elsewhere, I'm still going to get that full benefit. Okay. So let's transition here and talk about when you should plan on buying. We always say the sooner the better. Right now you're young, you're healthy, you're going to have access to training discounts as you transition into residency. So really, right now is the best time. So after match day is what we tell med students that's really that period before you get started in training to really seek this out, because once training starts, it's going to come fast, right? You're going to be heads down and life's going to start there, okay? But I want to talk about discounts. So all 5 of those carriers offer specific training discounts, which is great. And those discounts are going to stick with you for the life of your policy. Secondarily, and honestly more important, is your health. Health is a big determining factor of your rates when it comes to disability insurance. Okay, so if I'm younger and I'm healthier, I'm going to get a really good rate on my policy. Now, if I'm 45 and I have high blood pressure and maybe some, anxiety, that insurance carrier is going to look at me a little bit differently. They're going to pull out that microscope a little harder, okay? And so when we talk about residents in training or med students transitioning into training, now is the ideal time. You're about to earn an income, most likely your first income. So we need to protect that. Okay, so because you've matched, the insurance carriers are now considering you part of training. So you have access to those discounts. So really understanding what your options are as you head into training is really important. So again, discounts and health are those two biggest factors about doing this as early as you can. Let's talk about the ways to shop. Shopping online, we all do it, right? I order Chipotle online. I can order things from Amazon. Those are great. Please don't buy your DI online. Okay, just don't do that. Do your fact finding, do your exploration. There's tons of great resources out there from an education perspective. So educating yourself before you take that step is a really good process. But when it comes to disability insurance, there's too many nuances specifically for physicians, okay? The next best option is working directly with an insurance carrier, okay? So what is a captive agent? Let's unpack that a little bit. Those 5 companies that I showed earlier, those are all insurance carriers. So if I worked for one of those companies, I would be a captive agent. Now, there's a lot of benefit to that. But the downside is I'm only selling one product, okay? Now, when it comes to disability insurance, you're going to find that every company looks at every different specialty and health all differently, okay? So if you work directly with a carrier, that's great. But just know that there may be other options that could be better for you, okay? Now, going into training, you're going to realize that time is your most precious commodity, okay? So your ability to go shop all 5 of those may be tough. But if you want to work directly with the carrier, that's a really good option, okay? The third and what we see as the best option is working with a broker, okay? So Pattern is a broker. There's a lot of great brokers out there, but we are a broker and we advocate and work for our physicians and be a middleman basically between the 5 carriers and our physician, okay? So our job is to go shop those 5 companies and give you those options so that we can make the best decision for you. This is so personalized and individualized that it's not a one size fits all. So even when you're in training, you could be talking to one of your co-residents and say, well, I've got this really good policy with this company. And they may say, I've got this policy with this company. And that's totally fine, right? Because there's nuances of how those policies are set up. So a broker is going to advocate on your behalf. They're going to understand your needs, understand your desires. What's your financial goal, right? And there should be no bias there. And I'll show you here what a table looks like in a second. But that conversation should not be biased at all. They're going to unpack the options and figure out the best option for you. So again, online, captive agent, broker, really find yourself a trusted, unbiased broker. That broker is going to show you this, okay? This is what I call kind of the holy grail. This is the shopping that's done for you. So just as if I hurt my knee or my back, I would go see a doctor, right? And in that meeting, they would probably ask me, well, gosh, Greg, what happened? How is this impacting your daily life? What's your pain scale, right? What can you not do today that you were able to do before this happened? So they're going to ask me a ton of questions. And their goal is to really understand my needs, my situation, so that they can put a plan of care in place. And at Pattern, or any broker for that matter, that should be the goal. So this table here really lays itself out for having that fundamental conversation. So I'm not going to dive too deep into this, but as you'll see, there's all 5 options listed. We've got benefit amounts and riders, and we'll talk about what some of those things mean here in a second, all listed down the side. The only nuance for you is that you'd see pricing at the bottom, okay? Again, this is what you want to see because your principal or your guardian or your Mass Mutual policy may all look the same, but there could be a key difference that you're just not aware of. You need somebody to advocate on your behalf. That kind of leads itself into finding yourself a trusted team. A lot of times we want to think that it's a one-size-fits-all or one-stop shop mentality. I want to go to one guy or gal that can do everything for me, right? Because I feel like that's going to be easier. And sometimes that may work, right? But when it comes to being a physician and the nuances and specifics of your contracts and all the things, you want to go find a trusted team that can cover all of those bases and be really good at what they're good at, right? So at Pattern, obviously, we are really good at helping physicians navigate these products because that's all we do, okay? So finding yourself a trusted team, you want to find a good financial planner. you want to find a good contract attorney, because trust me, when you get to year 3 or right before graduation, you're going to start seeing some of these contracts. What does this mean? What should I be looking out for? Find that good contract review attorney, okay, that can help you unpack those things. A good insurance broker, disability insurance, life insurance, really get that set up. Real estate investor, a tax attorney, what tax implications come along with this? When you're meeting with these folks, there's certain questions you want to ask. I'm going to highlight a couple. Do you trust them? Do you like them? Are they an expert in their field? Do you feel like they'd be there if you needed something? Probably the most important is, how do they get paid, right? If I'm giving you X amount of dollars every month, what's your take on that? What's in it for you? Understanding those things and really creating that relationship up front is going to set that partnership up for better success in the future. So just know that it's not a one-stop shop mentality. You want to go source yourself a team that's really going to be, rooting for you as you, progress through your career. One cool thing as you, again, transition into this next phase of your career is, as you start training, you're going to be offered access to some group benefits, okay? And so what I want to unpack here is group coverage versus individual coverage. Okay, so as a resident physician at whatever institution you're at, you're going to have access to group disability insurance, and there's a lot of value in that. Okay, most times you're going to be automatically enrolled, and there's specifics on what that coverage looks like. Okay, so I want to kind of break apart the two differences here. Most employer coverage is not going to be true on occupation. Okay, so that's a key component. So if I can go back to work, or if I can work in a different situation or role, I'm not going to get my benefit anymore. Okay, so I can't be a surgeon or an anesthesiologist, but I can do this. I'm gonna lose that benefit because it's not true on OC. It's taxable. Why? Well, more times than not, your employer's paying the premiums for that. Okay, so because that is paid by them, that's going to be taxed. So if you have a $6,000 benefit amount that you would receive every month if you were disabled, we really need to consider taxes in that. Okay, so it's not really $6,000; it could be $3,500 or $4,000. Okay, so that's a big factor in consideration. It's not portable. Okay, now what does that mean? So I'm only going to have access to that coverage while I'm employed by that employer. Okay, so as I graduate and transition to fellowship or my attending role, I'm going to lose that coverage, right? Now, more times than not, as I start a new role, I'm going to have access to other group coverage at that new employer, right? But if I go 1099, which again is a whole different conversation, and I'm an independent contractor, I wouldn't even have access to those group benefits, okay? So employer coverage versus individual private coverage. Now, private coverage will be own occupation because, again, remember, that's the most important thing. It's not taxable. Why? Well, we're paying those premiums out of our pocket every month with post-tax dollars. So that benefit amount that we have on our individual policy is going to be what's put into our bank account every month if we have to be on claim. Okay, so that's a big factor. One's taxed, one's not, and it's portable. So buying this early before you get to residency or during residency allows you to have that locked in so that when you get your first attending gig, that's coming with you, okay? Now, at that point, we'll talk about increases and things like that to cover the income gap that we just had, right? But that policy is going to come with us. Now, more times than not, you'll see kind of this stack methodology because it's not one or the other, okay? So if you look here, you're going to see an employer contribution, and then you're going to see your private disability insurance contribution, and that stack there. On the left-hand side, you'll see that income, for example, is $400,000. Now, we're never going to be able to insure $400,000. Why? Because of taxes. So typically, we're looking 65% of what we can insure. And then from there, how do we stack our group coverage with our individual coverage? Okay. Now, I know I mentioned some of these things and these terms earlier, but let's unpack them now that you've kind of heard them a couple times. Let's start with riders. Riders are basically key features that get bolted on to that insurance contract that we talked about earlier. they make the policy more robust. And they're better bonus features that sometimes you pay for, okay? So those are typical. An elimination period. What's an elimination period? It's kind of an odd term. The elimination period is the time you have to wait before you can start receiving benefit. So typically it's 90 days. So if I become disabled and I can't work, I typically have to wait 90 days before I can start receiving my monthly benefit, okay? Now that's adjustable. You can bump that up to 180 days, and that may bring your premium down, right? So you just have to really understand, if I go 180 days, well, I'm going to need 6 months worth of income there to be able to bridge that gap, okay? Monthly benefit, I just mentioned that. Monthly benefit is what gets deposited into your account if you can't work. So as a training resident, a resident in training, you are eligible to receive up to $5,000 a month in monthly benefit, okay? So if you were to become disabled, that $5,000 a month would get put into your bank account, all right? Premium, we talked about that. I'm paying my monthly premium every month in exchange for that protection based on that insurance contract, okay? So as long as I'm paying my premium every month, I'm good to go, I'm covered, all right? Benefit period. Benefit period is basically how long can I receive these monthly benefits, right? Typically, you'll see to age 65. There's different variances where a mental health benefit period could be 2 years. It's really going to be contingent upon what we get from an offer from the carrier's perspective, okay? But that benefit period is how long we're going to receive benefits if we have to go on a long-term claim. Exclusions. Exclusions are things that get added to your policy that basically says, hey, we're not going to cover that in the event that you're disabled. So you could see a back exclusion on there. You could see a pregnancy exclusion. There's certain things that the insurance carrier may put on there based off of previous medical history that says, hey, we're going to cover you. We're going to give you this benefit. But when it comes to this, we're not going to cover you. Okay. Now, again, there's a lot there. So going back to what we just talked about earlier, you want to really go have those discussions and unpack what those things mean on a personal basis. So here's a slide just on riders. Okay, so the ins and outs of riders. A lot of times you're going to see these policies when you go get quotes. You're going to see these policies structured in a certain way that have these riders added. Okay, now if you do go shop a couple different brokers, just know that a rider on or off that quote could mean a difference in price. So if you're going to go get multiple quotes, just make sure you're looking at an apples to apples comparison. Okay. So non-cancelable basically means that the insurance company can't come in and cancel your policy for any reason. Okay. So you're good to go. As long as you're paying your premium, that thing's rocking and rolling. Okay. Number 2, cost of living adjustment, also known as COLA. So if I have to go on a long-term claim, right, if I have a long-term disability, what COLA does is it accounts for inflation on my benefit amount. So that $10,000 a month that I'm getting in year 1 isn't the same in year 7. So COLA accounts for that inflation, okay? Future purchase. This is a big one, especially for med students going into training and then residents while in training. So if we buy early and we lock in our health and our age and our discounts, what this future purchase allows us to do is to go buy more insurance without having to go through medical underwriting, okay? So let's dive into that a little bit. Let's just say I'm starting residency here next June, okay? And I get a policy and I secure that. I have my policy for 3 years. I graduate and I become an attending. Now I have the ability to go increase my coverage without having to go through medical. Now, what's important there is what could have happened in those 3 years? What if I, have anxiety or back pain, or, I had to have surgery for this, or whatever it might be? Certain things may come up during training. Now, if I've locked in my rate and I have this rider, I can go buy more insurance. Now, obviously that's going to cost more, right? But I can go increase my coverage to close that gap and make sure I'm fully protected. Partial disability. So partial disability basically means if I'm working, 5 days a week and I can, I go down to 4 because of a cardiac event or something happens, I'm going to be able to cover that partial income loss. Okay. So a lot of times you'll see that where I can still work, I can do everything based on my specialty, but I just can't do it full time. That's where that partial disability will come in. I want to talk here about some of this data. This is internal data here. So one of the things that we highlight as a broker at Pattern is that it's not just a one size fits all. And I alluded to that earlier. This is family med without OB. Now, all of you guys are going to be in different specialties, and we have data for every specialty under the sun. But this really shows a good breakdown of, across the 5 companies, there's no, real bias for what people choose. Okay. So 31%, 33%, 21%, it's pretty even, right? And so the point here is just to get you guys to understand that even if your co-resident has a guardian policy and that's awesome for them, that doesn't mean you necessarily need a guardian policy, okay? Again, going back to the personalization of these policies, the policies are built on really 5 components: your age, your gender, where you practice, right? Your specialty, and then any medical that comes into play, okay? So that's really what those components fit into building a quote, okay? So just understanding that it's not one size fits all, and there's variance in how different carriers look at different specialties. So let's talk quickly about what happens when I start this process, okay? So I want you guys to feel comfortable with understanding from start to finish, what does that look like? What are the potential timelines? What am I in for, right? How do I map that out? First and foremost, you're going to need to go get quotes. Again, that goes back to getting those personalized quotes that, again, are personal to you, okay? So if you get a quote that pops out right away, be a little bit weary, have that radar on, because it might not be necessarily personalized to you. Again, those 5 components plus the medical history are going to factor into those, okay? So getting those quotes is kind of the first step. The goal there is to have a conversation with an advocate or an advisor that can really help you unpack those quotes. What do these mean, right? What riders are here? Do I need all of those? What's my plan moving forward? Where am I at in my career? Having those conversations is really important, okay? Now, one thing I want to note here is there's nothing that you can actually buy at this stage, okay? That conversation that you have with that advisor is really just a conversation on theory, right? These are our best guesses. We have to go through a whole process to be able to get an offer back before there's anything to even purchase, okay? So just even understanding that starting this process, some folks might say, well, gosh, I'm not ready. I'm not even going to start, where they think they're going to be buying something 48 hours, 72 hours from that time. Couldn't be further from the truth, right? There's a process that goes into play there. So you want to get your quotes. You want to have your meeting. From that meeting, if you decide, well, gosh, this policy looks really good, I want to move forward with that. What happens next is you're going to submit an application to that carrier that you choose, okay? We're going to answer some more questions. We're going to provide some information, and we're going to submit that application to the carrier. Now, what that's going to do is put us into underwriting. Now, insurance carriers are just big calculators, right? They're just assessing risk. So they're looking at you as a risk factor. What would happen if we insured this person? Okay, so they're going to look at different things from a financial perspective, from a medical perspective, and they're going to put you through their underwriting process. Now, this could take 2 weeks. This could take 2 months, okay? There's some back and forth here, but just know that it's not a quick fix. When I submit that app, I'm not going to have an answer right away, okay? Now, through underwriting, the goal is to get an offer back, okay? Now, we want to get that offer back from that carrier and have it look as close to what we applied for as possible, right? So if our offer came back at X and we applied at X, that's really good. Okay, so now is where the rubber meets the road a little bit, where we actually have something to buy. We have a decision to make. Okay, so more times than not, you're going to want to get back on the phone with your advisor to really just level set. How's the last month been? What's been going on? Has anything changed? This offer looks really, really good, or this offer doesn't look what we applied for, right? Let's make that decision. Okay, you want to have that conversation. And let's just say from there, it's good to go. This offer is what we applied at. I feel comfortable with it. I've budgeted this amount out, and I want to go ahead and move forward. So really the next steps are to get that offer signed, pay the first month's premium, and put that policy in force, okay? And so from there, we're good, okay? We're going to reach out, or any broker should reach out to do annual policy reviews and check in to see how things are going. But you can sleep better at night that while you're in training to become that specialist, your income is protected now and in the future, okay? So really just helping you understand what this process from start to finish can look like, and it can go like this, okay? So you want to have that person that's going to help guide you through that process that you know and you can trust. So let's talk about some key takeaways. We need an individual, portable, own occupation disability insurance policy, okay? Remember, that's going to come with us. We're going to secure it with discounts because we did it in training. We're younger and healthier, and we're setting ourselves up for future success. Okay, this isn't a future Greg problem, right? We need to handle these things now so that we can help set ourselves up for success in the future. You want to work with an experienced independent agent, broker that can help, kind of guide you and show you those options from the big five, right? Those five insurance carriers. Because again, remember, it's not a one size fits all. Riders, remember, those are important, okay? Future increase option, residual benefit, COLA, really understanding what those are, how they impact your policy. Those are really important factors. And the time is now, right? Take advantage of discounts in your current age and health. We tell residents all the time, make a plan, right? You don't know what you don't know, and that's totally okay, right? That's why we're here, and I'm glad you've gotten to this point in the video to really understand what disability insurance is, why you need it, right? And the steps I need to take to go learn more, okay? So have a plan. As you transition from match day into training, that's a really good time. You're about to start earning an income, so go protect that income. Thank you so much for sitting with us today. It's been a delight. I wish you great success in your training and attending career. And thank you for all you do for your current and future patients. If you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you.